Hi everybody, Captain Phil here. Here we are at Stanchion 13 today. Today we're going to talk a little bit about paint preparation that we do here on the ship. All our painted surfaces are scraped with a hand scraper, sanded down hard with a power sander, sanded by hand, and then we'll prime it, paint it, and bring up the coats back to what we feel is a good coverage for the wood. It's really important that we do this because we look at every square inch of wood that's on the ship, and we're looking for small pockets of rot or pockets where maybe the caulking has failed or screws are coming out or something that's not quite right. And so we go over the entire ship every year looking for defects. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the hull. Part of our paint program is to scrape the hull down to all the loose paint comes off, and then we sand it with power sanders, sand it by hand, and then go back and prime it with a gray paint. So you may have seen the hull painted gray at one point in time this spring. And then we'll paint it with a couple of coats of black paint until we're sure that it's protected from the ocean. You can imagine that slamming the ship up and down in big seas will sometimes be harder than the paint. Same as rubbing against a dock if we don't get the docking quite right. Today marks a big day in our spring refit, and it's the day we take the winter cover off. Now the town of Lunenburg here, people start asking us, when are you taking the cover off? Sometime in March, but we keep it on as long as possible so that we can paint underneath it, we can do as much maintenance underneath it. It's a big greenhouse for us, keeps the temperature up, keeps the rain off, but eventually we have to get rid of it, and today is the day. So the plastic that covers the ship can no longer be used to recover the boat because the stretch has been taken out of it when it's heated. So we take it away and it's reused and repurposed for other things. The wood of the framing is all stacked in the yard. It's all checked over, and we'll reuse that again next year. One big thing, and the big change that's made at this time of year when we take the cover off, and you can see today, is that it automatically starts to rain. So we could keep that cover on for another week without the rain, but that's just life on the big schooner, and we have to teach the crew how to close the hatches. Today, another big day on the Bluenose. We're putting our anchor chain aboard. So 810 feet of anchor chain has to be lifted off the raft, up through the hawse pipe, across the windlass, and down through the spurling pipe. All this chain gets flaked around down below to make sure that it safely comes out in any weather when we decide to put it down or when we have to put it down. It's a big day. The ship will change its trim, so we're putting tons of chain aboard. So the ship is going to sit differently in the water. This chain's all been wire brushed by hand, linseed oil, and the shot markings have all been repainted. So in the middle of the night when we're anchoring, we can tell how much chain we have out. Finally, yesterday's rain has stopped. We had, I think in Tantallon nearby, had 80 millimeters, so we have to take direct responsibility for that because we took the cover off the ship. So anyway, that's life. Today, going to talk about man overboard, fire, abandoned ship, all the disasters that can happen at sea. And so one of the things that we have to do before we can ever leave the dock is to prepare our crew to respond to those emergencies. So this week, our new crew members are at the local fire hall, and we bring in an outside provider to teach them what's called an MED course, a Marine Emergency Duties course. So they will actually get into an immersion suit and jump into the harbor. They'll get into a life raft in the harbor. They'll fight a fire with a fire extinguisher. They'll talk about passenger safety and controlling groups of people, and they'll talk about keeping themselves safe at sea. So doing this is a way that we can have a really good foundation for the new crew members so that we can build our own practical ship training on top of that. So once they have an understanding of how they do things in general in the marine industry, then we'll show them how we rescue a person in the water here on Bluenose. We'll show them how we fight a fire here on Bluenose, and how that we would abandon ship here on the Bluenose. On top of that, we often carry passengers. Our harbor tour schedule is out now. So what we would do, we train our crew in how to keep passengers together and how to keep them calm in the event of an emergency on board. So safety is the #1 priority here on the ship, and we spend a lot of time training for it.